Right, so good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us at this really important webinar this afternoon. I'm super excited to see all these developing people here and that they can explain to us exactly what's going to be happening. So there's two parts to this project, and you'll get more information just now. So just for the agenda this afternoon, Charlie's going to speak first, and then unfortunately he has load shedding happening, and then Nicola will take over, and Brandon and Abby will finish it up at the end for us. So just very quickly, please, to make sure that our webinar goes well. So if you could keep yourself muted just for background sounds, please. And it sometimes does stream a bit easier when we have our cameras off, but you're very welcome to put it on if it's not a problem for you. It is being recorded, so we are able to show people afterwards. And we do ask, please, that you ask questions, and especially if you would type them into the chat, which is here. There it is. So you can just type into the chat if you have a question, please. It's great for us to keep those questions just as a record afterwards, so that if anyone wants to go back and see what was asked, then we do have that. So please do put that into the chat. And then, of course, I just have to quickly punt SAGTA here as part of this whole process and being part of the whole development, motivating it. So please do go and join sagta.org.za on the website there. If you're not a member yet, we would love to see you. And you're going to hear a little bit more about Kartoza and the rest of the people involved just now as well. So I'm just doing the SAGTA punt. Please do go and join if you're not a member yet. And today we are talking about a little bit of GIS stuff. And I found this, I thought it was pretty hysterical. But anyway, please don't chuck your computers out. That's why we're having this webinar today. We want to feel happy afterwards. So please, really, if you listen up, you are going to be perfectly fine. And you do not need to worry about this whole project. So Bridget is going to introduce Charlie to you. Yay. Thank you, Bridget. And then please continue, Charlie, after Bridget.
Thank you. And I just want to a big shout out to Charlie for actually making this happen in record time. What you are going to see now is kudos to Charlie. So Charlie, thank you so much. For the non-GIS specialists out there, which is all of us, I hear so that 80% of all GIS projects is actually spent gathering the data. And we don't want our learners to spend all this time trying to find the data. So just to explain a bit of context, so everybody learned how to use GIS, mainly QGIS in part A, and part B, they're going to put their skills to good use, find a real local spatial issue to solve. And of course, and here we are going to launch over to Charlie what the data downloader is. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Kartoza.
Great, thanks everyone. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. And thank you to Kartoza because I got a brief for making a simple clip and ship tool, and then I decided that it would work really well as a platform, and they gave me the resources to go ahead and build that, which, kudos to Kartoza for supporting that. It really was a big deal. So as Bridget said, I work for Kartoza as a GIS specialist, and I have developed a platform for retrieving spatial data. So for any of us that have worked in an environment or on projects where you have to actually go out and find data, you know what a challenge it is, and it almost feels like you get thrown 20 years in the past every time you have to do it, because you feel like things should be easy by now. So the GeoData Mart kind of platform is designed to kind of give this sort of e-commerce type experience where you just go and you cherry pick the data that you want from a series of map projects, and then you process it, you clip and ship it, and then you download the data for use, and it's all ready to go. So you can see on the front page, we've got a couple of projects available at the moment. We've got the GDSC general project, which is just a couple of layers that Abby has graciously gone and checked out, as being relevant to this course. And then we have another project, which is the South African NGR data, all the topographic data being served by Kartoza, and using the topo style project, which is a QGIS styling project for the South African national topo map. So to get the 1:50,000 type styling, on actual digital data, which is available. It's all open source. The platform itself is open source. So you can check it out on GitHub if you want. It's under GitHub Cartosa Geodata Mart. If you have a look there, if you're interested in that sort of thing. Of course, a lot of us are not. Also, if you're interested in general, like data acquisition, another open source project that I started, I was, like many of us that work in the field and have to collect data, you kind of just keep these spreadsheets or lists for yourself of useful platforms and so on. And very popular in the open source community is something called Awesome Lists, which are kind of curated lists of content that people keep online. So there's a link to one that I started, which takes a different approach to most lists in that it kind of tries to separate data by region. So most of these lists are just a bunch of open data. So if you go to, if you search in this repository for prior art, you'll actually find a bunch of links to other projects which have done similar things for socioeconomic data, population data, and so on. But this one is specifically designed to be for like by region. So if you go in this little filtering section to the South Africa section, you'll find links to a lot of the platforms that provide data to like either from South African agencies or independent parties. There's also links at the top to like national continental things like Digital Earth Africa and other platforms where you can get data from. This tool does things a bit differently than that, in that it allows you to retrieve very specific data layers in a kind of like typical GIS environment where you pick which layer you want from a map interface and then you process it. So when you log in, you get presented with the My Data dashboard, which when you logged in from the user settings tab in the top right here, there's the My Data section, and you can access that at any time. And this gives you a list of all your available downloads, all the processing jobs that you have completed before. And then if you go to the homepage, you'll find the links to all the available projects. So you can also filter it by projects and so on. There's also a search functionality, which at this point doesn't search layers. That's kind of an alpha development for layer information, but you can filter things by like the contents or the descriptions to find things that you're looking for. If you click on the big image, the preview image on one of these cards, it will take you to the item detail page. If you click on the small section, the small button in the bottom left, that'll go straight to the map. Or for downloads, so we have projects that are like maps that you can select layers from, and then we have download items, which is if you're a course coordinator or something, or like a cartographer, you can add a geo package with some data in it and some map items, or you can add like zip files and so on that people can just download readily as they need to. Right, so if I click on this, it'll just download a little geo package, and I can open that in QGIS, and it's got some basic natural earth data and so on. So if I click on the image here, it'll take me to the item detail page, and there I can introspect all the different elements of this particular project. It'll list all the layers available. Also in alpha development, so these gray swatches are supposed to be for legend images for each layer individually. And basically you can go through and get the details about each of the layers available in each project. The platform is designed to be kind of vendor agnostic wherever possible. So basically you can have a single platform for multiple schools or courses and so on, and like have, you know, different maintainers have like their own projects maintained that way. If a coverage has been defined for the layer saying, you know, this is the region of interest that we actually have data for, that shows up in a map here. And then if you click View Map, this will take you to the actual map where you can select your data and process it. I'm just going to... Can everyone still see my screen? So it seems to be lagging a little bit.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. So once you open a project, you'll go to the map, and you'll see, unless you have any layers selected, this will be grayed out, and also you will need to define a region that you actually want to clip data out for. So if I go to Durban and I just select an area, this will make it available for clipping and downloading. If I obviously have no layers selected, it's not going to let me move any further. So this is kind of like your legend. It's zoomed in quite far. At 1:1, it's a bit more readable, but obviously on recording, it helps to zoom in a bit. even if it doesn't look as pretty. But you can go through like the list of available layers, and you can just select, for example, transport. I can go to roads, transport elements, and then I can define my region. I do have a complete kind of tutorial on how you can go through and edit these regions. You can drag them from place to place. What these limitations are. Basically, you limit each project's available area, because this data for the NGR is particularly dense, and people shouldn't be processing because it's very computationally heavy, like very large regions. For the other project, for the GDSC project that's on this platform, this kind of red box, the maximum extent that's available is much, much larger, because that data is, it's less dense and more usable at like larger scales and so on. And basically, no matter what elements you add to the map, it will just keep growing in size and building an extent around those layers. There is like functionality planned for adding like free draw mode, like if you can upload or define like provinces or local municipalities that people can clip to, but that's unfortunately not available right now. In the meantime, we are able to just build an extent of the region that we would like. And once it's a valid extent within the project parameters, it goes blue and we can process it. Right. And there's also this gray region around it is also a buffer area. So if you just click around, for example, like roads or particular points of interest, you can actually buffer that by a certain number of kilometers. At this point in time, again, it makes less sense in this kind of extents constrained interface, and more sense when you start like allowing users to define streets and so on. You can also define the output CRS or SRS. So basically the QGIS project has its own coordinate reference system that's defined, and then the layers can also be reprojected. So if you select none from this dropdown, basically all the layers, whatever the source layer projection system is, map projection or coordinate references, that will stay consistent. If you select an item from this menu, basically it will reproject all of the data so that the project and the data itself is all like coincident with what coordinate reference system it's using. And then there's some base layers. So these are like web mapping services that are like acting in the background, and additional layers. So for example, you can toggle, if you define the project, you can actually toggle which layers are turned on by default and which ones aren't. In this instance, we actually leave the maps in them off, because in older versions of QGIS, it actually renders incorrectly, right? So once you've selected your layers and defined your area of interest, it will take you to a checkout form. And you can like review what layers are going to be processed in this project, and then you can just select process, or you can cancel it. And all of these, every time you create a job, it will be added to your dashboard for review later. Right, then it will give us a progress bar essentially, which tries to estimate like how much time it's going to take to do the processing. Every time one of these processes run, it actually uses QGIS in the background. So it's got to set up the whole QGIS project, load all the data, and then process layer by layer by layer and add things to it. And once that's complete, you will get this download result button. And if you click that, it will download a zip file with all of your data that has been processed. Inside the zip file, you should find a geo package with all of your vector data within it, and a QGIS project file. And if the project is defined with a raster image, it would also be like just packaged up in this zip file. Do you see there's a question in the chat? Oh, students don't need to stress about checking projections, clip and chip. Yeah, so that's functionality that's available, but you don't need to necessarily worry about it. It will just happen automatically. Once you've downloaded the data, you can review all of the items that have been processed before, and you can check them in your dashboard. In this instance, there's actually a bug. So you're supposed to be able to download available files from here. When it's completed, you should have a green button to download directly from the dashboard. The blue button is an indicator that basically this job, I've actually removed the file from the server, because obviously space constraints are a bit of an issue with the service. So once the data is deemed redundant, we'll need to remove it. And then you kind of let users know that it's not available for download anymore. Right. So I don't know how much time we have, or if I'm encroaching on anyone else's time here. So feel free to jump in and stop me. Otherwise, I'll just show off a bit of how it works. So basically, the zip file that is downloaded, it kind of gets this unique hash name, and that's a reference that if you actually contact us on the platform, you can like give us that as a reference, and we can check the job. Like if the data has been processed incorrectly, or there's an issue or error with it, you can refer to that file name, and then we can track down what the problem is. Okay, so if I refresh my connection here, you can see I have downloaded the zip file. I unzipped it, and then I've got my folder within QGIS, and I can have a look at the geo package, and you'll see all of the layers that I selected are now available in the geo package. QGIS also shows me there's 2 additional items. This is the area of interest that was clipped to, the AOR, and the geodata mart table gives you some metadata. So if I load up my area of interest, you'll see that's the region I clipped to. So if I type in world at the bottom here, you should see that that's Durban, and that's the correct region that I was hoping for. Right, the geodata mart table is just basically some metadata, so that if you share this around, you'll be able to refer back to it and like keep track of your data that way. And then of course we've got the data that we actually chopped up and downloaded. So if I remove those, you'll see that there's all my roads and my railway lines and so on. Of course, this isn't the prettiest thing in the world, which is not ideal. So the great thing about this platform is actually that you can just open the QGIS project from within the geo package itself, and all of the styling that we've made available, you'll see this. This is very similar in design to the actual NGR Topo Sheets styling for this data. You will notice that there's a bit of a, it's not really orthogonal here, and that's just because the coordinate reference system has changed from the geographic bounds that it was clipped to, right? And also the base layers that we selected are still available in the project. So for example, your students now have access to this is a web map service maintained by the OpenStreetMap community with the NGR's own orthophoto. And that's available in the project, well, unless people deselect it and so on. So yeah, that's how it gets loaded into QGIS. At this point, there's not a lot of metadata in the project itself, but in theory, or basically, if you have a QGIS project that you set up and you add metadata and attribution, all that information to the layer, all of that, like the styling, will be included in the output. You can also open the geo packages in ArcGIS. I mean, it's much the same process. You've got a geo package and you've got all of the data available to create a map and wait a long time for ArcGIS to open it. Eventually, you'll be able to add that data because it does support geo package. I'm not sure about the older versions of ArcGIS, but the latest version of ArcGIS Pro definitely does. Right, so yeah, it's a open standard data format. Just that the styling is QGIS specific. But that's kind of one of it's a killer feature of the app. So yeah. I don't know if there are any questions or anything that's unclear about the process.
Charlie, sorry, I was trying to raise my hand. So I'm just pretending I'm a grade 9 pupil and butting in. Could you please just show how easy it is to just click and drag the geo package straight into the viewing screen on QGIS?
Oh, yes.
Please, just so, I mean, because it's just so easy, because click and drag is super easy. And also that it supports any GIS platform, whether you're going to go with Arc or QGIS, whatever you have available. Yeah,
so I meant to lead with this, my apologies. But if you click and drag onto, I think the latest long-term support version of QGIS supports this, but you can click and drag a geo package just drag it onto the canvas, I think, or the layer table of contents, and then it will prompt you whether you want to load the actual data itself or if you want to load the project, and then it will load the project in its entirety. So that was the Natural Earth geo package that I downloaded earlier. You can see that it loads up immediately. and I can change my theme or whatever the case is in QGIS. Was that on point? Did I miss anything?
That is brilliant. And then this way, once you've got the data, the students, learners, pupils out there should know from part A exactly what to do to help solve their geospatial issue. Charlie, this is a life-changing product. I can't tell you how this is actually going to revolutionize how we teach GIS. I cannot thank you enough. Cup of coffee coming your way virtually and really thank you so much. It looks freaking awesome.
Thanks to Kartoza for letting me build it. So yeah, I think the great thing is also that you can let students build solutions that are like local to their own like region, and like people have interest in their own geography or in a particular geography. And then also, you know, if you're doing a lesson and you want things to be consistent, you can take one of these projects, pre-clip it, and then just make it available for download so that all the students can very just easily download the entire package. So that's the idea anyway.
It must have taken you forever. I would go and demand a raise.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my partner to stop being grumpy about working until 3 a.m. It was fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
Charlie, that's the life of a teacher. Thank you. Over to Nicola to explain how you're going to be using this in part B. I think I've got the order correct.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
You are correct. Thank you, Charlie, so much for explaining the geodata download, or GeoMart now. Okay, so we're going to talk about part B now, and I'll put everything into context so that those that are slightly, you know, might need help or feel like they are a little bit confused, don't stress, we'll sort you out now. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Okay, and I don't want to be on this one, and I need to make it actually present. Give me 1 second. Okay, so yay, it's the start of part B. How exciting. All right, so for part B, really, this is the time for students to really have their moment to shine, to go and ask the question, why? You know, I wonder why this does this. And using the skills they learned from part A, they are able to try and answer that question, hopefully. So in the website that Abby will show us, and thank you to Abby for putting in so much effort for it and answering to my crazy ideas and suggestions, so thank you. So on the website, all the instructions that you're seeing now are there in full, in bits, in videos, and all sorts of things. I've really tried to cater for both student and teacher so that everyone understands. There's videos for each section, and extra videos that you might need, thanks to Kartoza, ones that they already had on, like, for example, projections. Anyway, so what we're doing is the kids have to work in pairs, or a minimum of 2 people and a maximum of 5 members in their team. Then they must decide on what kind of topic they would like to solve. And we've given them a list of topics. I don't think I've put it in here, but basically anything like sea level rise, but everything to do with South Africa. So for example, I said like fires, so example, the Knysna fire. We could talk about flooding, drought, crime, lack of services, load shedding, or for example, where are our power stations, where's the coal mines, all of those kind of things. So there's lots of different topics that they could choose from, and really I've kept it vague so that they can really decide to take one point within that topic if they really want to. I would be really surprised if students can't find a topic within the list I sent through. So once they've identified the issue or challenge, and that one I will use, which is the one I use in my videos as well, is the example of sea level rise. And to hone in it, we'll talk about the sea level rise around sort of the waterfront in Cape Town, for example. Okay, so that would be the idea or topic they chose. And then they need to decide, well, how are they going to solve this problem, or what do they want to show with the issue of sea level rise? So they could go, okay, maybe the effects of sea level rise in terms of the water encroaching in on the waterfront. So then they would need the coastline data, the urban settlement, the rivers, the roads, infrastructure, all of those things. And then they could create like buffers, which they should have learned in the first section, and all sorts of different things to show how the sea is going to encroach into that space. Okay, so those, how do you do that? You get all your layers. You get your road layer, your province layer, and all those things. And those are what we call the data layers, which you can see here. So they can use a maximum of 10 data layers. The reason for this is to try and keep it, the kids, to make it simple. Also, if you have too many data layers, sometimes it can be overwhelming and you're not really sure what to do with all of them or how to, manipulate them and change them and all of that. So that's what we are aiming to just emphasize here today, is that they can use 10 data layers. Then also they need to look at their attribute table, which I'll show you just now what that is. That's within the data layer. You learn it in the matric geography. It's that extra stuff within the data layer. So for example, if we're looking at roads, it would have the name of the road, if it's a national highway or secondary, etc. It's those extra bits instead of just seeing the road line. Okay. What are they doing with all of this? Once they've chosen and trying to sort out something within their project, they need to create an academic poster, which must be handed in a PDF format, size A1. How they can do that, they can use any means. They can use Canva, PowerPoint, Publisher, whatever they like. And when they go into the settings of the page layout, they just choose A1, that's it. That will sort that out. The reason we've asked for PDF, it just makes the file smaller for submission. They will also submit a video that can be no longer than 5 minutes presenting their poster. So going ta-da, like the picture behind me, you can talk about your picture or whatever, the poster. And there you're going to be looking at, like any sort of oral or speech, can they talk with their poster, not read off of it? Do they actually know what they're talking about? So that we want them to be proud of their work they've done. And that's why we've added that element as well. Now, the rubrics have been changed many a time. So the versions that you've seen before actually have changed completely. So I'll go through them with you now. But we've also provided a flow diagram for the students. I've broken it up here. So just to get them prompt with different questions to prompt them in terms of thinking of what they want. So what are their interests in South Africa for their topic? Is my issue focused and simple? Do I know, those are the kind of things that I've sort of put in there to prompt them to really think about what their issue and topic will be, and then how do you find the solution for that. Then I've even given for prompting for methods and data collection. Obviously, with the GeoMart, they will just collect the data there, but they have to think about what data layers do they want. Do they want the roads? Do they want the provinces, etc.? Okay, and then we've got the results and discussion as well. So that I've sort of prompted as well, because it could be quite tricky to work out what you're actually going to take from your layers and what you've made. So how are you going to, what data layers do you need? How do I find them? All of that. Are you able to explain them? All of those things. And then can you basically create a map or use your data to create statistical stuff, which I'll talk about just now in that space. And then your presentation, are you reading off your poster or not, etc. So that's sort of just the flow diagram to help the students. We then, okay, one does simply not ignore the rubric, okay, as the little meme says there. Okay, so the rubric has been simplified dramatically. I've got a video explaining the whole rubric in detail for the students and teachers. All the videos cater for both, so there's one video for everybody. And there's videos on each section. So there's a separate video talking about the introduction, there's a separate video talking about the methods, etc. There. Okay, we have provided the whole document as one and then split it up as well. So really, it's going to flow very nicely and hopefully help everybody there. Okay, so this is the first part of the rubric. So it's taken a little bit of a different format, but I think it's fairly simple to understand. So their marks range from between 10 to 20 marks depending on the method. So for example, the introductions out of 10, and basically you go from 8 to 10, which it's got, has the problem been identified? Is there a motivation for why they've chosen that problem? Has it been provided, and has their context been given? If they have all of those things, you give between 8 to 10. It's your discretion whether you want to give 10 or 8, depending maybe if it flows nicely, if they speak, if they've typed it up nicely, etc., or that kind of stuff. And then it's the same for the methods and so on. So the methods, the only thing you need to watch out for, and I'll just highlight it now, is have they shown some sort of GIS skills with screenshots showing the data manipulation, making sure that they haven't got more than 10 layers. You'll be able to see that on the side. I'll talk about that now. and have they shown their attribute table in some way? And again, I will talk about that. Otherwise, you just read what the content says and you can give your marks accordingly. Again, there is a video for that too. And now it won't move. Oh, there we go. Okay, results and discussion, the same thing here. This one's out of 25 and so is the poster. The only thing I want to also highlight here with the results and discussion is have they referred to the attribute data and explained what's going on in that. So in some way, have they put that into their poster? And again, I will talk to that. But otherwise, you just read, is it basically sophisticated solution that's presented? Have they used maps or graphs or statistics? Basically, very similar to the idea of your mini geography research project that you would do for matric. Okay, then the poster itself. Okay, so is there text? Are there pictures? Are there maps? Is it organized well? Is it relevant? So if they're talking about sea level rise, we shouldn't see pictures of flowers, for example. And does it flow nicely when you look at it? So you want to imagine yourself walking past the poster. Will it catch your eye? Would you look at it, type thing? Okay. And then again, for the presentation, it's like any oral or speech. Do they speak to you with their eye? Like, do they make eye communication? Are they nervous or they're reading off the poster, etc.? So those are the rubrics that teachers will be using to mark this section. And then lastly, which as teachers, you will just actually need to read the comments the kids make. But because it's a group work thing, and in real life, they will have to work in teams and with others. So we've provided at each section sort of like a little feedback form saying, do you think you worked well in the group? Who worked the most? Who worked the least? You know, all of those kind of things. And you would just read through the group's work and award a mark accordingly to that group. So that you just read and then you just decide which level that they would fall under for that. So for 8 to 10, diverse thoughts and differences of opinion considered, used to enhance the task. So did they actually say, yeah, I worked on this, but I could have done that and blah, blah, blah. Or if they just said NA, then obviously you can choose to give them a lower mark because they're not commenting on their group work. You can give comments if you want, and then you just sign off and date like you would any other thing as well. I will answer your questions, Cecile, just now. Thank you for that. No problem. I'll deal with that in a second. Yes, so that's the rubric. There's the questionnaire for the students. It's now the teachers are not there, but anyway, basically, did the learners work together? So it was basically, we had prompting questions for the students. So how much do you think you contributed towards the section of the project, and then the others as well? Okay. Yay, Poppy's launched. Okay, so basically the deadline for the students to hand in is the 31st of October. The reason for this is because of exams. Okay, most schools have exams in November in that region. If you have matrics doing this, I would advise they hand it in earlier. And then I've given a deadline for teachers, and I know it's during your exam period time, but now that I've given you in advance, I'm hoping this will be all right for you. But the 18th of November would be your deadline to mark. It shouldn't take long because all you would do is look at their poster and listen to their recorded presentation and award marks. So just watch out for those deadlines. Obviously, we'll send reminders and emails and everything in between for that in that space there. So for those that don't know what an academic poster looks like, I will show you now, but the meme shows that's not how you do an academic poster. You don't put all of your stuff on a board, but I thought it was quite funny. So I will quickly just show that to you. I'm just going to escape my presentation. Okay, so these are various different examples of posters. I hope you can see this. But basically, and I've put these examples on the website as well. You don't need a lot of text. You can see there's very little text and lots of images. So that's sort of basically what we're expecting from the kids as well. Their research or their idea, their solution should be able to be seen visibly in the space. So they don't have to just keep with maps. They can have graphs and statistics and stuff in between as well. But that's, for example, what an academic poster looks like. Oh, you
Sorry,
can't see the
Nicola.
poster.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see. Sorry, all right. I will share that screen with you in a second. Give me 1 second. While I'm talking about it, with the person, okay, let me stop my share. With the question about work, if the student's working alone, as long as you as the teacher think they are able to do it on their own, then it's fine. I always just advise, because it is a lot of work. So if this is an extra thing for them, so if you feel that they will be able to complete this in the time period and manage it on top of their normal workload with their subjects, then that is fine. Otherwise, if you feel they need a group member, just chat to us. I'm sure we can find someone else who needs a group and they could work together online. Okay, can everyone see the poster now? I'm hoping.
Perfect, great.
Yay. Okay, so this is just an example from some of my colleagues at Rhodes and the University of Free State. But basically, this is what an academic poster looks like. So very brief introduction. We don't expect the kids to write a thesis here or do basically a metric research. It's more the presentation of the academic poster. So you can see it's very visual, lots of maps and images, some stats. So that's what we want. A little bit of text to guide the person who's looking at the poster. So that's what we're expecting from them. I'll show you another one. You should be able to see it's the same window, but this is the one I did long ago in my honors. And again, there shouldn't be as much text, rather lots of images for that kind of thing. There's another one as well. Just looking at all sorts of different things. So that's what we are expecting of the children. So for the introduction and the methods and stuff, I've said in the videos that if they write too much, it's fine. Rather write lots, and they can cut down when they put the poster together, so that they can, you know, at least have everything they want and then change it up as they go. So in QGIS, last thing, and then I will be hopefully finished, and I'll answer other questions. I'm just sharing my screen again. In QGIS, what we're talking about with the attribute table, okay, so I've just loaded some simple things for you, some rivers and the provinces, okay. When we're talking about the attribute table, if I had to right click on my layer, okay, you can open up the attribute table. And here is the extra information that I like to call it. So the name of where the river is, okay, what type of river, is it perennial, non-perennial, etc., and stream order, all right. So what I've actually done, and this is where the kids can play around, is they can present the layer in different ways to show what they're trying to solve. So for example, if we were doing stream order, which is a metric section, you can see I've classified the river in their different stream orders. So the first is purple, the second is that whatever yellowy color, and blue, etc. So that is done all within, if you just double click on the layer, within their symbology. So it's really not difficult. But for example, that is one way we could mold, change the data, and all sorts of things. When it comes to the GeoMart and the kids selecting the layer, they would go on there, and there's a section that says this is for geospatial data science certificate. They would click on that, and they would select whether they want rivers or whatever. And what he was talking about with highlighting a certain layer or a certain, area, that means if the kid is only looking at, let's say, the waterfront in Cape Town, they only need to take that part of the data. Whereas if you were to collect all the South African data, it would download a very big file, which most computers probably would not be able to process. And so that's why he was talking about, you choose your area and you just hit download. You don't need to worry about him talking about the sort of the projection stuff. As Bridget's mentioned, they just click and download and then put it onto QGIS. It will be projected for them there. I have put videos of projections up on the Geospatial Data Science website as well. So yes, that is basically, I think, me done. Let me check. Yay. So that is me done. I don't know if we have any questions. I hope I've made sense.
Sorry, Nicola, I don't think the attribute table came up, or at least it didn't come up on my side. Maybe it opened up a separate window. If you could just go back to the...
Yes, I think it did. So I'm wondering if I can share. Yeah, I'll share my entire screen. So you'll see double for a second, hopefully. And then I'll show the attribute table again. Just shout, Bridget, if you can see it. Can you see it?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Oh, yay. Okay, let me go through that again. So I'm on my rivers data layer. I right click on it. Okay, there it says open attribute table. You open it up. And within our rivers, this is the extra stuff in that layer, in the attribute table, like the province name, where the river is located, the type of river, perennial, and then the stream order. So what I did, and students can do this as well, this is a simple thing, you don't have to do much with the data, is, for example, if I was looking at stream order with my matrix, I would change my rivers like to I have now, where you can see the first order in purple, second order in yellow, third order in blue. And all that is done is with the symbology, for example. So if we double click on this now, it comes up with that, and you go to symbology, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's normal, the single line. So if we leave it normally, it will just come up in one color. And let's say the students who are looking at flooding, for example, let's say they were in matric and they were interested in looking at flooding and they wanted to apply their knowledge, you would go categorized. You would choose, I want to look at stream order. You would then classify it, so just call it up basically, and then you apply it, and then it changes the colors according to the stream order of the river. So that is one way. I mean, obviously there's a whole lot of things the kids can do, and they've learned a lot more in part A, but just to show you where you would find the attribute table, they could then take screenshots of how they've done that as evidence that they've changed something. They could also, if they wanted to, decide to take a screenshot of this and put it in their poster as well and talk within the attribute table itself. They can also highlight different things on it and then, you know, specifically talk about that one, etc. So that's just a little tidbit there, but yes, does that make sense to everybody?
Perfect, because it is a data science certificate, so it is all about working with a database.
Yes, and really my advice, the kids need to learn, they need to make mistakes. You know, now that we have the GeoMart, if they mess up the data, they can download it again, let them play. I've just had a matric do a whole their mini research project with GIS, and really I just let him do it, hey? And you know, he learned what happens when a file gets corrupted and if he does something wrong. So let them play. It's okay that they don't know what they're doing sometimes. They'll figure it out. They're more savvy than we are. But yeah, we are here if you do get stuck as well. So just be aware of that. Any other questions before I hand over to the next person? Wonderful, guys. Okay, so the next person is Brandon. And Brandon's just going to be talking about wrapping up part A and the marking of part A. And then we'll have Abby going to show us the website, which her and I have been working very hard on, well, her mainly, but me giving her the stuff. But we worked as a really lovely team. So I'm going to hand over to Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. Oh, Brandon, do you need to share?
Yes, I might need to share just to show the rubric again.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to, in the background, make you be able to share.
Great. Okay, no problem. Good afternoon, everybody. It's certainly exciting when we looked at the, when I looked early on at the data downloader, that's a game changer. And I think once you people start, as teachers, even using it, it's a wonderful resource for you. Because I know in making maps, in playing around with GIS, I am a sort of a data troller. So I've done a lot of trolling along the internet to find data, but now you can find it in one place. So that's fantastic. And so you'll be able to get your learners to do some fantastic work. And so this is really exciting. But I think to prepare you for that, remember that was the section A, was really to prepare you for what you needed to do. And I just want to go back to the document and share this document with you. I hope you can see it. I don't think you're seeing it. Are you seeing my document?
Yes,
Yes,
great.
we see
Are you
it.
seeing it? Okay, let me go again. There we go. I just want to move it onto the screen. So remember, as we said, yeah, this was the actual part A exercise. And it's interesting that the task we used, we had a webinar, our last webinar was looking at Kabeja. And one of the suggestions that was given there by the presenter was looking at that manganese ore handling site and converting that into a theme park water frontage area. So this was the task we were going to do. So basically, your learners need to do this in order for them to do part B. Because what the skills that they're going to learn here to manipulate data, present data, is going to be what they're going to use in part B. So therefore, it's important then for your learners to get through this and don't think it's something that you can just pass by, because when you look at the rubric here, you'll see that as teachers, you'll need to mark that, you need to check that. And so therefore you'll need to look at what is their general design, what is their map construction, how did they manage the data, how did they work together as a team? Because as Nicola mentioned, that's also going to become part of the criteria that is used in the part B. How did the team work together? So you will see that if you look at the rubric, it explains actually very nicely what you need to do, how you need to assess that, and how the students then need to present that to you. And what is nice, as opposed to the poster, you'd be able to watch them. You could watch them using the data. If you had your contact time with them, you could get them to produce this, and then in this way, then they'll be able to do part A. But as Nicholas said, time is running out. When I think of us, we are right at the end of our term, and then soon we're going to be going into the third term where it's crunch time for exams. So we encourage all teachers to use the time effectively to get through all of this and follow through with the task. Those who attended the SAGTA conference were able to go through this themselves because we presented this as a training session at SAGTA. So you are able to get a hands-on feel on how to do this exercise, because I think while we said teachers don't need to be experts on it, it's good to play around with it, because then you are able to know what problems the learners pick up, how to help them, because there's nothing more frustrating when things don't work, and that can dampen the enthusiasm of your learners. So my encouragement to you is try and dabble with this a bit, even if you battle a bit. It will give you insights into the challenges that your learners will face, and then you'll be able to provide excellent support for them. So that's all I wanted to say on the part A. Let me just stop my screen. Part A task that you needed to complete, because really it's designed as a preparation for the part B. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon. That was wonderful. Nice clarification on a few things. Thank you. Abby, are you ready?
Can I just quickly interject before Abby comes in, just to wrap up part A and B, and to say that the maps, Abby, I'm sure, is going to showcase some of the end products that were submitted from part A were absolutely outstanding. And they are going to be presented at an upcoming conference. Abby and I are off to Florencia. That's if the ground crew isn't all on strike in Europe. But it was brilliant. And kudos to the teachers for the support, because now you've got these skills. We're hoping that this pilot project will enthuse, you'll be such GIS enthusiasts that you'll promote it coming up in future years. Thank you.
Before Abby starts, I just want to thank Abby for all the hard work. I think we've produced a beautiful Part B website. So over to you. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'll just be running through Part B in terms of the site, so how it looks. I have so many screens. Okay, this one. Okay, so this is how Part B looks. So when I think so far everyone has access to, I'd like to believe everyone who's in Part A now has access to Moodle, and they're able to access the course and be able to do the assessments that they need to do. At the moment, no one has been enrolled onto Part B yet. So once we have a number of people that have completed Part A, then we can start rolling in the enrollments for Part B. So when you go into Part B, you'll see that there's an introductory video that Nicola has made. So she's basically introducing the presentation that she gave you now is basically in the video. So we made sure that for Part B, we have enough content in terms of you being given enough information for you to get through Part B without having to struggle and trying to figure out what do I need to do for this and what do I need to do for that. So there's the welcome video, and then you have the introduction and the instructions. Then you have the document that Nicola was presenting, which is given to you on the platform. And also you have Nicola explaining the document, just breaking it up bit by bit. And then after that, then you would have your flow diagram, and that will guide you in terms of how you go about creating your academic poster. So from your introduction to methods, results, and then your final product, which will be the poster. And then you have just your general course information in terms of who you need to contact when you are stuck. And then as usual, learners need to make sure that they fill in their attendance register, just as a way of them being able to keep track on what they have been doing. So if they're finished with the introduction section, then they can fill in the register to say, we are done with the introduction section, then we're moving on to the other different sections that we need to do for us to complete the poster. And as usual, you have your roadmap that will just show you that, hey, we are here, and then this is how far we are, and then we need to keep going so that we can be able to hand in our work. Then you have your content section where it'll just a quick way of getting through to the different sections that you need to go to. Say, for example, you are now busy with your methods. So instead of you scrolling down, you can just go forth and just click methods, and then it will take you to the methods. So we also have a tutorial video playlist. So all the videos that have been recorded by Nicola, me, Charlie, and any other video that we saw fit that will help learners and teachers go through Part B smoothly. We have placed them here on the playlist. So if it happens that maybe you forgot what is needed of you from the introduction section, you can just quickly come here, click on the introduction, and then the video will play, and then you can go ahead and listen and hear what is needed from you. And then you have different videos as well, which I will explain in terms of what you need to do for them. And then you have the introduction section where part of the flow diagram has been broken up for you. So these are some of the parts that are in the flow diagram that have been placed for you. So basically each and every section from what you get from the document is basically a reminder to say, hey, this is what you need to do for introduction. This is what you need to do for the method section. And then you have a video for the introduction section that explains what is needed from you. Nicola has explained clearly in terms of how you should go about going through your introduction section in this video. So just please make sure that you and your learners go through the introduction section videos, understand them, take notes, and then after you've taken notes, make sure that your learners tick to say, hey, we have listened to the video and we understand what's going on. And then they start with the introduction section. Once they are done with the introduction section, learners need to make sure that they fill in the form. So remember that in Nicola's explanation, she mentioned that there is the part where in the group learners need to, they need to hand in feedback. So this is where they will be filling in their feedback form. So in this case, I can't, let me just switch my role here and be a learner. So this is how learners will see the feedback form. So as a teacher, you won't be able to see the feedback form because Moodle sees you as the person who has created the form. So according to Moodle, you already know what the questions are that learners need to answer. So I can click on answer the questions, and then you'll see that these are the questions that you will see from the document that Nicola has shown, and then we've added them here onto Moodle. Then they can answer, and then they can submit the questionnaire, and then you can either print it blank, or as a teacher, you can come back and look at their their feedback to see what they have answered, so that you can be able to evaluate it at the end when you are marking their work. So go back here. So that's the feedback form. So just ensure that your learners actually answer the feedback form once they have completed their section. So in this case, if they've completed their introduction section. So in introduction. So moving on, then you have your methods, and then with methods, you'll see that there are two videos where you get an explanation in terms of what is needed of you from methods, and a demonstration in terms of how you go about taking screenshots of what you've been doing and so forth. And also in the method section, you have the video for the geodata mod, so I'll call it the GDM. In terms of the GDM, you have Charlie explaining what the GDM is, how you should go about acquiring data from the GDM site. And also, if you need data and if your learners need to go and acquire data from the GDM site, they can just click on the image here or the logo for the GDM, and then it'll just take them to the site, and then they can go log in and then get whatever data they need to get. And then once they're done, they can just go back to Moodle and then continue with what they need to do. As always, they definitely need to answer the feedback form. And then once they're done, they move on to the results section. Again, answer the feedback form, and then they move on to the presentation. Now, with the presentation, since learners need to record their presentations, we've added or we've introduced a platform called Flipgrid. Maybe some teachers are familiar with it and some are not. I have added tutorial videos for teachers to be able to create their own accounts, for them to be able to actually go into Flipgrid, and then so that they can send me their Flipgrid username so that I can be able to add them to the account that I've created, which has all the groups and all the schools where they can be able to submit their final presentations. But what I would advise teachers in terms of the whole recording of Flipgrid, you can create your accounts, and then when you create those accounts, you are the admin of that particular account. So if I can do this, Flipgrid, let's see. Hopefully, so for example, this is my Flipgrid account, and this will be the Flipgrid account where each and every learner will be coming in and presenting their presentations depending on which group they are in. And also, as I mentioned, Flipgrid is just an easy platform where you just use only your email address, either your Google email address or your Microsoft email address, sign in, and then you are the admin of your Flipgrid account. And what I would advise teachers to do is, before you can even say to learners, go onto the platform that Abby created for you to present your final presentations, I would recommend that on your Flipgrid group, you can just ask learners, enroll learners as members on your group, and then you can start practicing presentations. Probably maybe you can even start, let learners start presenting the introduction, method section, results and discussion and so forth, bit by bit, until they present their whole presentation. So basically just this practice to say, hey, on the final day of presentation, this is what you'll be submitting on the Moodle, not the Moodle rather, but the Flipgrid platform. So if I click on this and see, come on. So this is how they learn this. So each and every group on Flipgrid will have a topic, and each topic, that's when the learners will be responding to the topic given. So in this case, they'll be responding to the presentation, or depending on the topic they'll be presenting on, they'll be adding their videos here, and then they can record their videos live, or they can upload the videos here on the platform. And then after that, teachers will be able to view the videos at any time and actually mark using the rubric that they'll be given. So if you need any instructions, the instructions are here on the playlist I've provided for them. So there are ones that are hidden from students, and then there's this one where students and teacher can also can watch together in terms of how you'd go about recording the videos on Flipgrid. And then after that, the last section would be the poster, actually the submitting of the poster. So in this section, you have examples of academic posters, which are the ones that Nicola had shown. So in this case, you can just be able to click here and then download them. So you don't necessarily, as Nicola mentioned, you don't necessarily have to make it as serious as the ones that are not even serious, but these are meant for you to draw inspiration from them, to say, okay, this is how they place their introduction, results, discussion, images, how they just in terms of getting the whole format of how an academic poster should look. So you can just download them, and then you can view them at any time just to draw inspiration from them. And then after that, when you're done, don't forget to fill in the form. And then also in the last section, you have a form that teachers need to fill in as well. But after teachers have filled in their form, which will be filled in after they've already observed or read through the learners' feedback form, then teachers will be able to upload it here on their academic when they have started marking, then they'll be able to upload their feedback form onto Moodle as well. Let me see if I can be able to just see here. Okay, no one is selected at the moment because we don't have any students in the platform. So once learners have started submitting, when you start marking, you'll be able to upload your feedback form along with after you've marked the rubric as well. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, as usual, I'm available by email. So once Part B has started, I think that's it from my side.
Thanks, Abby. That was great. Thank you for showing us the website. Are there any other questions or concerns? Wonderful.
Abby,
Yes,
do you
Bridget.
have any maps that were produced in Part A easily available? If not, not a problem. Just to
I
show
have one. I can hide the learners' names or not, but yeah, I have a map that I really liked. There we go. So this map for me is like the coolest map I've seen because they were able to have the entertainment area and then just divide it and say, this is our restaurant, this is our arcade, and then they have the theme park with the different things within the theme park. So this is like by far one of my favorite maps that I've seen from Part A. So the creativity behind it is just crazy. So I just like that about the map, and they have like their parking area where they've divided it into different sections. So it's pretty nice.
Can we see it, Abby, if possible?
You got, oh, the screens. Oh, no.
Yeah, stop sharing and then reshare. That's what I do.
The screens. Okay, sorry about that. So
Perfect, we can see.
So this is how, and this is like, as I mentioned, this is one of my favorite maps because they were able to kind of say, this is how our map look, this is how our theme park will look, having the restaurants, kiddies areas, arcades and whatnot. So yeah, one of the maps that I could get
love
quickly.
And I wonder what Poppy's playtime is there and Dora's delight.
I don't know. That's what I've been trying to figure out. So, but yeah, it's one of my favorite maps, and I'll be using this as part of my presentation in Italy.
Wonderful, thanks, Abby. Are there any other questions? Anything before we sort of conclude this webinar? Anything from Bridget or the team?
Hi, Nicola. Maybe I'll just quickly say something. This is Clinton van der Merwe speaking. So, as you know, the University of Pretoria is the one of the sponsors who's endorsing this certificate. And we just want to say thank you so much to Bridget Fleming and Brandon Lowe for Part A, as well as Nicola for Part B. What we want to do is eventually launch a South African GIS Olympiad, but because there's so much work still to be done in that, we're thinking that we could possibly pilot some of these posters once we've moderated who could be the best one, to possibly be involved with getting a prize. Apparently there is scope for sponsorship from Phosphor-G and Cartoza, so thank you to our loyal sponsors and supporters there. And there's a possibility that the winning poster that we judge and deem the winner could possibly present this online at an international conference in Kosovo. So we're looking forward to those prospects. We'll keep you all posted on the SAGISO, or the South African GIS Olympiad, as it unfolds over the coming months. But thank you so much for this initiative. The Geospatial Data Science Certificate, endorsed by the IEB, Cartoza, University of Pretoria, and SAGTA, is really taking geography places in South Africa. So we're so proud of this initiative, and we thank you, the team. You're doing such a great job. Well done.
Thanks, Clinton. Bridget, anything from you? Okay, guys, I think we are 5 minutes over an hour, so I'm sure some of you want to go and knock off and have the rest before term ends for those that have holidays coming up. So I really thank you for being here, watching our webinar and learning about what's to come for Part B. I'm really excited about it. So thank you very much. You can go. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.